Our top story tonight, President Trump renews his call to end the Senate filibuster to open the government. It would be a departure from a long-standing Senate tradition, but Trump says Republicans must end it for big policy wins. But what long-term impacts could Republicans face? Why is there significant resistance among the president's own party? Our panel on this issue. A late-night decision from the Supreme Court on food stamps, what it means for the administration and SNAP benefits. In the NFL, could the Washington Commanders soon be playing at Trump Stadium? NTD's Dave Martin joins us to discuss. And despite advances in modern medicine, diseases like Alzheimer's are still on the rise. What can we do to protect our brains as we age? A doctor shares his insights.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Arlene Richards. It's day 39 of the government shutdown, and President Trump ended his week with a renewed call for ending the Senate filibuster. If done, the Senate would only need a simple majority to fund and open up the government. Today on Truth Social, Trump wrote, "The Democrats are cracking like dogs on the shutdown because they are deathly afraid that I am making progress with the Republicans on terminating the filibuster." He added that Republicans should end it whether a deal is reached or not, and that they should approve policies like voter ID. Trump's proposal has met with resistance from fellow Republicans, including Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who has said there aren't enough votes to scrap the filibuster. The Senate met today to debate the demands from each party as it relates to funding the government. Meanwhile, U.S. airlines again canceled more than 1,000 flights today, the second day of the Federal Aviation Administration's order to reduce air traffic because of the government shutdown. It was another busy week for the Trump administration, from a landmark Supreme Court hearing to new foreign policy deals and a sweeping health announcement. NTD's Daniel Monahan has your White House week in review.
Liberation Day.
The Supreme Court heard high-stakes arguments over the legality of President Trump's global tariffs.
Look at what President Trump has been able to do with the leverage and the power of tariffs. He's been able to sign peace deals all over the world and end global conflicts and literally save lives.
For nearly 3 hours, the justices probed whether Trump's reciprocal and fentanyl tariffs were authorized by a 1970s emergency powers law. President Trump met with Central Asian presidents at the White House. Kazakhstan officially agreed to join the Abraham Accords.
A tremendous country with a tremendous leader.
The country's president praised Trump for bringing common sense and tradition back to the United States.
You are the great leader, statesman, sent by heaven.
First Lady Melania Trump was named Fox Nation's Patriot of the Year for her work on behalf of children and families.
I applaud American dreamers and innovators who embrace originality.
President Trump announced a deal with Eli Lilly and Novartis to slash weight loss drug prices.
Nobody else could have done it, but I say that modestly.
The American public, because of this agreement, will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. Well, it is going to have dramatic effects on human health in this country.
The FBI confirmed 4 additional arrests linked to last week's alleged Halloween terror plot in Detroit.
The threat of terrorism is real. When Americans are threatened, we respond fast, focused, and together.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced a 10% reduction in flight capacity across major airports, citing staff shortages caused by the ongoing government shutdown.
This is about where is the pressure and how do we alleviate the pressure.
Donald J. Trump.
President Trump celebrated economic resilience at the America Business Forum this week. Trump addressed the victory of Zohran Mamdani in the election for mayor of New York City.
As I've warned for many years, our opponents are hell-bent on turning America into a communist Cuba or socialist Venezuela, and you see what happened to those places.
In other election news, Proposition 50 passed in California, giving Democrats the chance of picking up 5 more U.S. House seats.
What a night for the Democratic Party, a party that is in its ascendancy, a party that's on its toes, no longer on its heels.
President Trump had breakfast with Republican senators this week. He discussed the shutdown and urged them to terminate the filibuster.
It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation.
War Secretary Pete Hegseth announced the Department of War carried out more lethal strikes this week on vessels operated by alleged narco-terrorists. The United Nations Human Rights Chief has condemned the strikes as extrajudicial killing. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
A late-night decision from the Supreme Court on food stamps. It's allowed the federal government to put a pause on fully funding SNAP in November. The court's decision pauses a lower court's order that forced the Trump administration to fully fund the food stamps program for November. The Trump administration had already committed to partially funding SNAP. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued the pause to give an appeals court more time to make a judgment on the government's appeal. She is assigned to handle emergency appeals from the First Circuit Court. The Supreme Court has not weighed in on the merits of the case. It's day 39 of the government shutdown. Senate Republicans offer an off-ramp to Democrats to reopen the government, but Democrats are pushing for an extension of Obamacare subsidies without debate or reform. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has the story.
Pressure is piling up to reopen government as flight cancellations hit major airports. Senate Republicans have offered yet another off-ramp to Democrats to reopen government by teeing up a series of votes on an extended continuing resolution, a trio of appropriation bills, a bill to pay federal employees, and a promise to vote on the extension of Affordable Care Act healthcare subsidies.
You're going to have a vote today, but if you fail, you're going to be having a vote on Sunday. You're going to work through the weekend.
I think that should be the expectation.
Some Democratic senators who have traditionally favored bipartisan compromise have signaled that they will keep government closed until they have guarantees that their policy demands are met.
Voters were telling Democrats they want us to stand up for what we believe in, and they want us to use our power to try to keep costs down.
Leader Thune just needs to add a clean one-year extension of the ACA tax credits to the CR so that we can immediately address rising health care costs.
Senate Republicans have made the case that the Affordable Care Act and the enhanced health care subsidies have benefited the insurance companies more than the American people.
441%. Humana, 490%. They need to up their game. MOLINA, whoever they are, 859%. SCNTENE, 604%. Aetna, 595% since the passage of this bill.
Senate and House Republicans maintain that they will not guarantee the extension of the ACA subsidies without significant debate and reform.
We are not, as Republicans, going to continue what you've created, a windfall for healthcare insurance companies, inflationary mechanisms in healthcare without an end. We're going to stop and fix what you created in 2010.
President Trump has insisted upon Senate Republicans that they should end the filibuster and reopen government.
He just wants to, he obviously wants to be a part of solving this problem. And as I've said, he's willing to sit down on the issue of health care with Democrats once the government opens up again.
It's important to note that any Senate-approved continuing resolution with an extended date would still need to go to the House of Representatives before being signed by the president. Until then, the government will remain closed. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Homeland Security reported on X that an unknown male driving a black Jeep fired shots at agents and fled the scene. The department said the Chicago Police Department was called for assistance and cleared the scene, but the shooter remains at large. It added that a number of agitators allegedly threw a paint can and bricks at Border Patrol vehicles. The Chicago Police Department told Fox News that there are no reports of anyone being shot. The prolonged government shutdown is impacting air travel around the nation. Starting yesterday, 40 major U.S. airports began reducing flights. So if you're traveling soon, check the status of your flight with your airline. Some airline loyalty programs make it easy to cancel flights purchased with miles. The airlines that are temporarily providing waivers to change flights without fees include American, Delta, Southwest, United, and Frontier. And here are more tips for people flying or booking flights in the near future.
There's a number of things you should be doing to be aware.
Experts say travelers who plan to fly soon should know their options. Experts advise people departing within 10 days to keep an eye on their airline's app for changes. They say carriers likely will try to preserve their hub-to-hub operations and cut regional flights instead.
It may not be a bad idea to delay travel if it's non-essential, or if you're in a smaller city, perhaps to drive to one of the larger hubs if it's close by, and also consider buying a backup ticket.
Several airlines are letting passengers change their flights for free. The law requires them to issue refunds for cancellations, but they're unlikely to reimburse stranded passengers for meals or hotels. For people planning to buy tickets soon, experts suggest booking with airlines directly. They say that makes it easier to change flights. They recommend avoiding layovers if possible. And the Transportation Secretary suggests bracing for Thanksgiving impacts if the government stays closed.
If we have staffing triggers and we don't have enough controllers in an airspace where we did cut 10%, you might see additional delays.
Several pharmaceutical giants have said they will sell drugs directly to patients in the U.S. and have offered price cuts. That's after President Trump calls to bring down drug prices. So what are the major drug makers offering?
AstraZeneca and the Trump administration signed a deal on October the 10th. The company will sell some medicines at a discount to the government's Medicaid plan in exchange for tariff relief. Trump said the firm would invest $50 billion in the U.S. for drug development over the next 5 years.
Today, AstraZeneca is committing to offer all of their prescription medications to Medicaid at most favored nations prices. In other words, the lowest price anywhere in the world, that's what we get. A move that will save American taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars each year.
Eli Lilly has also made moves. In June, it said it would ship the 2 highest doses of its popular weight loss drug Zepbound to cash-paying customers on its website, starting early August. The Danish company Novo Nordisk said in August that it would offer its diabetes drug Ozempic for $499 per month. This would be for eligible cash-paying patients with type 2 diabetes in the US via its own pharmacy. US-based Pfizer and Trump said earlier in October they had cut a deal. The drug maker agreed to lower prescription drug prices in the Medicaid program compared to what it charged other countries in exchange for tariff relief. Pfizer's CEO said it will invest $70 billion in research and development, as well as domestic manufacturing. Roche has said it's considering selling its prescription medicines directly to US consumers to slash patient costs. In July, the firm's CEO spoke of ongoing talks with the US government. French drug maker Sanofi said in September it would offer a month's supply of any of its insulin products for $35 to all US patients with a valid prescription. That's regardless of insurance status.
Coming up, could the Senate end the filibuster to reopen the government? Our panel discusses after the break. President Trump is pressing Republican senators to terminate the filibuster rule to end the shutdown. So what is the filibuster and why does Trump want to scrap it? Here's a closer look.
The biggest thing is the filibuster.
President Donald Trump renewed his call to end the Senate filibuster rule after Democrats swept the first major elections since he returned to the White House.
The shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans.
And he told a group of Republican senators that terminating the filibuster was, quote, the only way to end what is now the longest government shutdown in history.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it.
His remarks came a day after the Senate failed for the 14th time to pass the Republicans' stopgap funding bill. The filibuster is a Senate rule that calls for agreement by 60 of its 100 members to pass most legislation. Republicans only hold a 53 to 47 majority in the Senate. One Republican opposes the funding bill, meaning they cannot reopen the government without support from at least 8 Democrats. Ending the filibuster would shatter long-standing Senate norms and make it easier for the majority to push through legislation. While Trump has called for the filibuster's elimination before, Republican lawmakers have been reticent, in part because Democrats would stop abiding by the rule upon obtaining a majority. Trump has played down concerns that the Democrats could take power. He also told a group of Republican senators that if they did not end the filibuster themselves, then the Democrats would. Republicans have shown little sign of heeding Trump's calls to jettison the rule. Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune described it as a mathematical impossibility, saying there are not enough Republicans to do away with it. Republican House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson has called the filibuster a, quote, very important safeguard, and said that if the shoe was on the other foot, I don't think our team would like it. In 2022, Democrats similarly tried to eliminate the threshold to pass a bill, but were blocked by Republican senators.
Coming up in the NFL, could the Washington Commanders soon be playing at Trump Stadium? NTD's Dave Martin joins us to discuss. And a doctor shares risk factors for Alzheimer's disease and what we can do to protect our brains as we age. When we return. President Trump today renewed his call on Republican senators to end the filibuster rule to open up the government. But so far, some senators are hesitant over fears of the long-term impacts. Joining us now is Angie Wong, Republican strategist and political columnist, and George Carrillo, former Democratic candidate for governor of Oregon. Thank you both for joining us to discuss this.
Thank you.
So to begin, let's talk about what Trump has told Republican senators. He said that terminating the filibuster is the only way to end the shutdown. Now, first, your thoughts on the president's proposal, Angie.
Yeah, no, I think that is the only way forward. We just heard from Senator Chuck Schumer what he actually wants. It sounds pretty good. He wants a one-year extension of Obamacare, the affordable health care subsidies, but he doesn't mention where that money is going. And so President Trump, just in the last hour, he tweeted or Truth Socialed that he's afraid that Democrats are going to funnel money from the Affordable Health Care Act into Democrat-supported insurance companies, which then may end up in Democrats' pockets. So he doesn't want any of that. He wants all that money redirected directly to the American people so that Democrats can't play around with elections, et cetera. And I think that's exactly the right thing to do. Short of that, if that doesn't come around, then I think the filibuster, the nuclear option it's going to have to be the way, because we're at a stalemate here. We're at day 39. How much longer are we doing this? Because we're entering the busy travel seasons for the holidays, and federal workers haven't been paid. Our military is barely getting paid. And of course, SNAP benefits, even with all the speed rails in place, they're not going to last forever. By the end of the month, people might go hungry. So we really need to stop playing around with American lives and reopen the government.
Well, George, what do you think? I mean, should we do as Trump says and end the filibuster, or do you have some different thoughts about this?
I definitely have some different thoughts. I think this is the part of the president's demise, is that he keeps telling the American people false statements, and they're not true, and the American people are figuring that out. That's why Democrats had a sweeping win on Tuesday. And I believe what the president needs to be doing is actually having good conversations with Democrats, having and allowing the House and the Senate to actually engage in these negotiations. But right now, he's the leader of the party. He's not allowing for those negotiations to happen. And I believe that Senator Schumer's proposal to keep these House subsidies for the next year is a good call. There is no truth in what he's saying. This is going to help save lives and allow for people to have equitable access to health care. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's open up the government, but it just can't be the way the president wants it to be. Let's actually have conversations. And I believe if the Senate says we're going to remove the filibuster, it's going to prove to the American people that Republicans cannot negotiate with Democrats, and it will be their demise in 2026.
Well, Angie, the Senate majority does have the choice to abolish or change the filibuster rule through what we're calling, or what they call, the nuclear option, but it's considered by some to be an extreme option. So could this move guarantee that the government would be reopened?
Well, at the moment, Senator John Thune says he doesn't have the votes right now. But I bet if President Trump really needed this to happen, he can get on the phone, make some phone calls, make some deals. He is the art of the deal president, after all. So I think that could happen. But I think right now, Republicans in the Senate, they are stressing everything that they can to not do the nuclear option, because guess what? Democrats can then flip the cards and use it against us. And so this is not a great option, but at the same time, we are at a standstill. There's nothing else that we can do. Either side's just not giving in, and it's really a game of chicken at this point. But more importantly, you've got hundreds of millions of Americans right here waiting for this government to reopen, and we're starting to feel it now. We just came back from the airports. The airports are certainly, there's some delays. It's still running smooth right now, but when the busy holiday travel season really kicks off in the next few days, it's going to hurt.
Well, George, are there any short-term concerns for Democrats over this filibuster being ended through this nuclear option?
There's definitely concerns because of the fact that the president's going to get exactly what he wants, which is to remove these healthcare subsidies, and will damage the lives of many Americans, not just individual Americans, but families. We're talking about children. We're talking about accessibility to preventative care, healthcare screenings to help Americans determine whether or not they have terminal illness. This is a program that's very much needed to be able to stay intact, but we're going to see about 20 million people off the program if the Republicans go with this nuclear option. But I promise you, when Democrats are in power, and if they do this, then the Republicans will be the first ones that are complaining and trying to blame Democrats for not negotiating with them. So there really does need to be a compromise. There is alternative options. I believe Senator Schumer gave a great option. Let's keep the healthcare subsidies for the next year, and let's reopen up the government. I think that that is a good proposal to the president and to the Senate to say, let's get the government open. And over the next year, let's talk about what this new Republican plan in order to put forward to save healthcare. Unfortunately, Republicans have not brought any new legislative policy, nor the president, to replace the healthcare subsidies. So the only other option is for us to be able to hold out. And in the long run, it is hurting Republicans. It is hurting Republican constituents and Democrat constituents. But really, who holds the responsibility? It is the Republican Party.
Well, Angie, you said earlier that Democrats could flip the script on this. So what are you expecting that could potentially happen in the future if this filibuster's ended now in terms of the Democrats?
Well, yeah, no, and if Democrats gain control of the Senate, they can pass all sorts of things that they want, including packing the Supreme Court, which is something they've wanted for a long time, turning Washington, D.C. into a state, turning Puerto Rico into a state, because they know that they can win Congress that way and really stack the houses. So I think that is something that John Thune and other Republicans, they don't want this. They want to continue the shutdown a little bit longer, hoping to squeeze Democrats. But I just don't see that being the right runway at this point, mainly because neither side is moving along. Chuck Schumer, I think we're actually getting set up a little bit here with President Trump just doing on truth what he said, which is he wants money going to Americans' pockets for health insurance. He might actually be able to turn that into some sort of executive order. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be some sort of alternative plan to Obamacare coming out in the next few days.
Now, you said earlier that the Republicans don't have enough votes to end this filibuster, but Trump has played down concerns that the Democrats could actually take power. So here's Trump explaining why on that.
If we do it, we will never lose the midterms and we will never lose the general election, because we will have produced so many different things for our people, for the country, that it would be impossible to lose an election.
Now, George, I think you kind of mentioned this earlier, but Trump believes Republicans will be able to push through what he sees as popular legislation and maintain power. So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't believe so. I believe right now that the president and his tactics over these past 11 months have not proven to be the right course for the American people. There is political overreach. He is overreaching with his executive power. And the American people are seeing that. And that's the reason why we saw what we saw on Tuesday. And so Republicans need to really find their political position, because if they stay loyal to Trump, then they're not staying loyal to their constituents. And we have to remember this is the government of the American people, not of the Trump administration. So it's time for them to understand, what do their constituents need? Their constituents need to have affordable health care. They need to have benefits for SNAP recipients. They are the largest percentage of those Southern Republican states that actually are recipients of SNAP benefits. We need to get this government shutdown over with, but they need to find their own voice. They cannot rely on the president having the voice of the entire Republican Party, because as we see today, he is really going against Republicans. He's going against his own, he's throwing them under the bus. And so they need to find their own voice.
Well, Angie, do you think this is political overreach on Trump's behalf, or what do you think about this?
No, I mean, I've been saying use the nuclear option for weeks now. I mean, you can go back and see what I've been talking about. I think a lot of Republicans wanted this from the very get-go. We knew that this was going to be a political game. We knew that Americans were going to suffer because of this. Now it's just gone on way too far. This is the longest shutdown in history. It's time to end it all. But if the two sides can't play along well, maybe this has to happen. Now, I think to my colleague's point, President Trump will not only use a filibuster for this one CR, but for a lot of things going forward, which he loves because this is his, last term in office and he wants to get as much done as possible. But it does take the same amount of votes to then flip back into the filibuster. I think that's what John Thune and other kind of more conservative Republicans do not want. They don't want a situation where we're on the back foot in the future. And I get all that. But what else are we going to do to reopen the government? I think you've got to use the nuclear option as soon as possible.
All right, George, could you give us some of your final thoughts before we go?
In closing, I would just say that the president is getting this wrong. I think if he really wants to be a uniter of our nation, then he needs to start by healing it. And he needs to come to the table and realize that Senator Schumer's proposal is actually very reasonable. And let's get the government reopened. We have an option. There's no reason to go to the nuclear option because the Republican Party is not going to like what happens in 2026 when we take over the House and the Senate. And then the president is going to be complaining and blaming his own party for doing the option that he wanted to do in the first place. So let's put politics aside. Let's open up the government. This is a good deal. And let's get the country back on track.
Well, it's day 39, and with both sides playing chicken, we don't know how long this can go on. Angie Wong and George Carrillo, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Alzheimer's disease, a progressive brain disorder and the leading cause of dementia, affects more than 7 million Americans today. That number is expected to nearly double by 2050. With all the advances in modern medicine, why does the crisis keep growing? And what can we do to protect our brains as we age? In this episode of Vital Signs, Dr. Daniel Monti, a professor of integrative medicine and nutritional sciences, joins host Brendan Fallon to explore time-tested human traditions that preserve brain health.
The approach of our twilight years should be a time for rest and relishing the fruits of our long lives. But for many, it's underscored by a fear of what grim disease may be around the corner, like Alzheimer's. And this fear is not completely unfounded. Despite our advancing medical science, we continue to see the Alzheimer's rate rising. But maybe part of the problem is an over-attention to medical science and not enough to the measures of living a longer, fulfilling, loving, and meaningful life. Joining us to lend his insight to the challenge of Alzheimer's disease today is Dr. Daniel Monti, brain health expert. He's professor and founding chair of the Department of Integrative Medicine and Nutritional Science at Thomas Jefferson University. Welcome to Vital Signs, where we learn how to get healthier from all angles, from the biochemical and nutritional to the things we do that nourish our minds and our souls. I'm Brendan Fallon. Dr. Monti, fantastic to have you join us on Vital Signs again.
Always a pleasure to be here with you.
And especially to talk on this topic of Alzheimer's disease. It's certainly a personal issue for me. I saw this with my grandmother who passed away with this disease. I want to explore on beyond what's happening in terms of medical science. There's a lot of expectation around what drug may cure Alzheimer's disease. But I know that you're aware, and you've covered this in your own show, that there are certain things that have been done, in some cases, I think, for many years, for hundreds of years, that I think have the power to really protect the brain, and I'm really looking forward to exploring these with you. To start with, to kind of set the scene, I know that there is a genetic predisposition to Alzheimer's disease. There's an APOE4 gene that I'm aware of. In the scheme of things, where does the environmental factors, the things that people can actually do themselves in terms of their lifestyle and the way they're living, how big a role do you think that plays in the scheme of things?
The environmental factors are huge, and we're increasingly seeing from the data that they have a very significant impact on whether or not people develop Alzheimer's disease, and even at what stage in life and to what degree. So when it comes to the genetics, there's people who have the APOE4 gene, heterozygous or even homozygous, and don't get Alzheimer's disease. There's people who lack that nucleotide who do get Alzheimer's disease. So while the genetics are important and they're predictive, they're not everything. They're not the whole story. And we're seeing more and more that there's proactive things we all can be doing to make a big difference in what life looks like as we age.
One thing I've seen on your show, I saw an episode recently, and it kind of took me by surprise, because you talk about many things in your show, like diet, and as being the way that people eat can be a protector against Alzheimer's disease, like exercise and things like that. And I saw a short about the hearing aid, and how this can be, how something like so simple as a hearing aid can play a pivotal role in preserving brain health. And this reminded me of my grandmother's situation. She passed away at age 94. She'd had Alzheimer's for a number of years. And it was really as her hearing deteriorated further and the hearing aids really weren't doing much, that she kind of dipped out more and more, and it wasn't that long before she passed away. How significant a factor would you say this is? And it seems like a simple thing, a very practical thing. How does this factor in?
Hearing loss is one of the most predictive factors, which is why, as people age and they start to notice decline in hearing, that they do something about it. Because we know that people with hearing loss have a much higher risk of developing dementia. Now, if people actually are able to do something about it, that risk changes. One of the things that's connected to the loss of hearing is the isolation and the loneliness that occurs when people can't hear and can't participate and can't engage with other people. We know this has a profound impact and actually is its own independent risk factor for cognitive decline. So they kind of all go together.
You see this, you see older people when they hit retirement, if they lose a loved one, this kind of cognitive decline will often follow not long after. And I know another thing related to this is purpose. I know this comes through again and again, like someone's sense of purpose is a huge factor in predicting longevity. And if you're playing a role, if you're performing at your job, if you're fulfilling this role in your family, then surely this has to be a reinforcer of why you need to be around. To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
And now for your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, good to see you as always.
Good to see you, Arlene.
And I know there's a lot going on this weekend as always.
There always is. Funny how that works out like that.
I know, isn't that funny? All right, so let's start with the NFL. I hear that the Washington Commanders are planning a new stadium and they might name it after President Trump.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah, this is that planned $3.7 billion stadium set to open in 2030. Now, White House Secretary Caroline Leavitt did not confirm this is going to be named after Trump, but she said, quote, "That would be a beautiful name as it was President Trump who made the rebuilding of the new stadium possible. So officially, though, neither the White House nor the Washington Commanders have said it'll be named after Trump. Historically, of course, stadiums are named either after the team owners or maybe the team nickname or even the name of the city. In more recent years, they sell the naming rights to big corporations instead. But this stadium is being built on the old RFK Stadium site where the then Redskins played from 1961 to 1996. So there is precedent to name it after a political figure. And FYI, it wasn't named RFK Stadium until 1969. But Trump is planning to attend tomorrow's Commanders versus Lions game, so maybe he'll be talking to team executives then. I mean, it's certainly possible. In any case, the team apparently is not the one that actually decides that stadium name. That's up to the DC Council. So I'll have to stay tuned on that. I mean, I have no idea which way this could go. It possibly could, though, be named after Trump. That'd be kind of neat.
Well, so it was Caroline Levitt who brought this up?
No, this was actually, that quote is actually from ESPN, who contacted Levitt. I mean, the headline is is that Trump wants this stadium built after him. So they contacted her and said, well, what's up with that? That was her quote. So I don't know that we've heard the full truth about who wants it named what, but there's where we're at right now, all right?
So, rumor mill in the NFL.
The rumor mill for sure.
All right, so let's shift gears to college football. We've got a lot of games going on, ranked teams, big action. What's going on there?
Oh, man, we just second-ranked Indiana. I almost said Penn State. Indiana survived Penn State. They won in the final minute there. Won 27-24. Really an impossible throw and catch in the final minute. Let's take a look at this one now. Hoosiers were down 24-20 with 2 minutes left before forcing a punt. They didn't throw 73 yards in 10 plays to reach the end zone. Fernando Mendoza found Omar Cooper for an incredible touchdown. They then held on in the final seconds to remain undefeated, now 10-0. Nittany Lions, meanwhile, fought a 3-6 overall and 0-6 in the Big Ten in last place. Now, 2 years ago, I'd never say all that. Let's look at another big game today. 8th-ranked Texas Tech beat number 7 BYU 29-7. This was in Lubbock, Texas. Now, despite both teams being ranked in the top 10, this really was not a very close game. Cougars suffer their first loss of the season now. Red Raiders are now in sole place of first possession within the Big 12 with a 6-1 conference record. Let's look at some more scores here. Georgia beat Mississippi State 41-21 in an SEC battle. Number 1 Ohio State beat Purdue 34-10. So Ohio State number 1 in the country as well as in the Big Ten. And back in the SEC, Ole Miss, ranked number 6, beat the Citadel 49-0. Now going on right now, we've got some big games in both the SEC and the Big Ten. 22nd ranked Missouri trails Texas A&M, 3rd ranked Texas A&M 30-10 right now in Missouri. And in the Big Ten, number 9 Oregon is up 15-10 against number 20 Iowa. We got tonight Notre Dame, 10th ranked Notre Dame hosts Navy. Now the midshipmen are unranked, but they actually have a better record than Notre Dame at 7-1. That game is 7:30 Eastern time. Also at 7:30, big one in the SEC. 4th ranked Alabama hosts LSU. Now the Tigers have dropped out of the rankings after 3 straight losses, and they fired their head coach Brian Kelly. They're still a formidable opponent, in my eyes anyway. And this has been quite a good rivalry game in recent years, really, because Nick Saban led both of these schools to national titles. So maybe it was a big rivalry when they ever played. So that should be a good one as well, Arlene.
So do we have any teams that are right now you think are on top or that you know are on top in college football?
You know, I don't think there's anyone that really stands out to me yet. You know, only because, you know, number 1 Ohio State really has not been tested by having to play a great team yet. Indiana, I would say, is starting to become battle tested. It's so strange to think of Indiana as a powerhouse football team. I mean, they never even won more than 9 games in the season until last year, and they won 11 last year. There's 10 this year. The SEC, though, is a much more difficult conference. I would think maybe Georgia or Alabama would be a more formidable opponent. Each of those have losses, though. Ohio State and Indiana are undefeated. So my short answer is nobody has really stood out to me yet that I can say that they're really head and shoulders above everybody else.
in my opinion.
All right, well, so many teams playing in college football, and now we're off to college basketball starting their new season, and we've got like a bunch of games today and a top 20 showdown at Madison Square Garden. Tell me about that.
Yeah, number 15 Alabama beats number 5 St. John's. It was a home game for St. John's this afternoon at MSG, 103-96, very high-scoring game. Let's take a look. Crimson Tide were the highest scoring team in college basketball last year, 90 points a game, and it looks like that's just going to continue with this one. 2-0 now go Alabama, 1-1 in St. John's. Meanwhile, elsewhere, 6th-ranked Duke had no problem with Western Carolina. They won 95-54 in that one. Blue Devils had a 24-point halftime lead, really cruised from there. And number 2, Houston beat Towson 65-48. Now the Cougars coming off that very heartbreaking loss in the national championship game last April. Looks like they're doing all right though. Now tonight we've got several more ranked teams in action. 14th ranked Arkansas will be at number 22 Michigan State. That'll be 7 o'clock Eastern time. Then at 10:30, Oklahoma is at 21st ranked Gonzaga. So yeah, this is the first big college basketball Saturday, really, of the year, I would say. But usually, you know, basketball kind of falls behind football until football season ends. But I still pay attention to it.
So when does that kick in as far as being the main sport that you're going to be watching, basketball?
Well, for college basketball, it'd be January. I mean, the college football season will start to wind down in mid-December, and then you'll have the playoffs starting then in the bowl games. So then people start paying more attention to basketball as the season winds down. Yeah, I think the championship game is like the second Monday in January. So that's when we start paying attention to basketball.
All right, lots of games to watch before then. And then moving to tennis, they're getting to the end of their season. The ATP final start on Sunday. What's going on there?
Well, for one, the number 1 ranking is going to be up for grabs here. Right now, Jannik Sinner has a very slight lead over Carlos Alcaraz. Really, those two, they really separated themselves from the rest of the pack. They won all 4 majors this year. The 2 of them won all 4 majors the year before. And they even bet in the championship match at each of the last 3 majors. That's never been done before. So they have a very good rivalry going. Alcaraz was actually asked about their friendly rivalry yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, probably the people might be surprised about it because when they think about a rivalry, when they think about fighting for great things, fighting for the number 1 spot, we have to hate each other, and I think that's not true. Once we step on the court, we have 4 goals. We want to do our best just to win the match. But after when we shake hands, you know, off the court, we are the same person, and that's I think that's a really healthy rivalry that we have, and I think that's great for sports as well.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. You know, it's the last tournament we play. Let's see what's coming, but I'm very happy to play in Italy once again after Rome. Coming back here in Turin after last year, it's great, and we all hope for a great event.
So this event features the top 8 ranked players separated into 2 groups of 4. They have like round robin play, and then the top 2 from each group end up advancing to the semifinals. Finals then is on November 16th. So if either Alcaraz or Sinner wins this, they would surely then be number 1 at the end of the year, which is kind of a big deal in tennis because it basically means you had the better season. So,
you know, I'm a little confused because I thought tennis ended already. Why am I confused?
Well, you know,
wasn't there something else about tennis we talked about a while back? Was that Wimbledon?
Yeah, there was Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, the French Open. It winds down. Once the U.S. Open ends in September, it starts to wind down for sure. This is the final event of the year, and then really we don't really start up until January. You get the Australian Open.
I see. Okay.
Pretty much the official start to the season. So they get about 6 or 8 weeks off, maybe.
Oh, and then they're right back at it.
Then they're right back at it. I would assume they're training the whole time, though, to be honest with you. They're just at least not on the road.
Right. All right, Dave. Well, thanks so much for your updates as usual.
Oh, thank you, Arlene.
And coming up, a new exhibition in Milan reveals hidden layers beneath works of art. CT scans and X-ray images illustrate the details. And Christmas has come early for Germany's tree growers. We take a look at how Christmas tree farmers in the country's Sauerland region are kicking off the season after the break. CT scans and X-ray images from 8 works of art are on display in Milan. The new exhibition reveals a multitude of layers hidden behind the iconic images. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on where art meets science.
At the Palazzo Reale in Milan, 8 masterpieces from the 15th to 18th centuries are getting CT scans and X-rays. The exhibition, Art from the Inside, Masterpieces Unveiled Between Art and Science, opened its doors to the public last month. Professor of Applied Physics Isabella Castiglione explains the process.
We irradiate the works of art with electromagnetic radiation, such as X-ray radiation. And the work of art responds to us with images of content linked, for example, to the density of the materials, and we are able to understand the techniques and the materials themselves, even at a chemical level, comparing them with spectral analyses.
The imaging uncovers the creative journeys of the great masters, from initial ideas and revisions to the final result. A highlight is Caravaggio's The Fortune Teller. Using X-rays and mathematics, a Madonna and child rotated 90 degrees appears beneath the surface. Castiglione describes how these artworks undergo a human-like process.
They become patients, undergo checkups, undergo diagnostic tests, such as a CT scan, and these tests reveal their state of health. Many of the works on display were and remain very well. Others needed preventative interventions to maintain their good state of conservation or more significant restoration.
Art from the Inside, Masterpieces Unveiled Between Art and Science, runs until January 6, 2026. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
It's not yet Thanksgiving, but it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in Germany, at least for the country's fir tree farmers. Growers have started harvesting the first trees of the season, kicking off a festive and busy time of year.
Yes, it's true. Our sales motto is "It's Christmas all year round here." It's actually almost Christmas for us right now. The harvest is beginning, which of course means things are getting a little hectic. When families come with their children, grandparents, and everyone else, and they choose their Christmas tree together, you can feel the atmosphere, and it's really impressive and makes you happy too.
Germans have been celebrating Christmas with decorated trees for centuries. In the 19th century, that tradition spread elsewhere in Europe, and immigrants brought the custom to the United States. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Arlene Richards. Good night.